Donald Trump has already achieved his legislative victory, my friends, as the fractured and scattered Democrat Party is giving steady ground to the president. The battle for the border, the battle to end wanton immigration crime that has been forced upon the American citizens for decades now, is ramping up. Not only are there reports that 10,000 active duty troops are likely headed to the southern border soon, and ICE is already beginning raids across the U.S., but now Trump gets his first legislative victory. The Laken Riley Act has just passed both the House and the Senate and is heading up to Trump's desk for him to sign. This bill is taking direct aim at a broken legal system that has kept illegal aliens comfortably ensconced here within the U.S. So here's what you need to know about this new frontier in the war to finally put this absurd chapter in American history to a close. The Laken Riley Act does a number of things. First, there is mandatory detention. The act is requiring federal authorities to detain so-called undocumented immigrants or illegal aliens who are charged with, arrested for, convicted of, or admit to committing certain crimes. These crimes include theft-related offenses, such as burglary, larceny, and shoplifting. But that's not all. The Senate also expanded the bill to include assaults on law enforcement officers. So if you're an asshole and you attack an officer, expect to be deported, and crimes resulting in death or serious injury to another individual. Now, this act also grants state attorneys general new legal standing to challenge federal immigration decisions, including those made by immigration judges. So if you have corrupt judges that are not following the law, you can now challenge them. The states can, which is wonderful news. It also allows states to sue the Department of Homeland Security, this is huge, for harm allegedly caused to citizens due to illegal immigration. So if the federal government is not following the law, you can now sue them. The legislation also empowers state attorneys general to sue the State Department to enforce visa sanctions against countries that refuse to accept deportable individuals. So if you have thousands or hundreds of thousands of people coming to our country from your country and you won't take them back, we can say screw you and deny visas, which is a good move for the United States. Now, of course, there are some funding concerns because the act does not allocate additional funding for its implementation, because why would it, right? Democrats on the Appropriations Committee, trying to scare people into not supporting the bill, estimated that the bill would cost $83 billion over the next 3 years. And admittedly, ICE has also indicated it would need to nearly triple the number of detention beds and conduct more than 80 removal flights per week to implement the requirements. But somehow I doubt that they'll really need $83 billion. But we'll find out when we get there. There are some operational challenges as well. Now, it is worth noting that ICE has privately informed lawmakers that a period of preparation and increased funding would be necessary. Now, let's talk about the political context. Let's talk about the bipartisan support of this bill. The bill passed the House with a vote of 263 to 156. This means that 46 Democrats joined all the Republicans in supporting the bill. Meanwhile, in the Senate, the measure passed 64 to 35. This means that 12 Democrats voted in favor of the bill. So this is big. This is bipartisan support. There's no one really fighting to stop this from the Democrat side. Now, the legislation is set to be the first bill that President Trump will sign into law in his new term. And importantly, it is aligning with his campaign promises and his administration's focus on immigration enforcement. So promises made, promises kept. This is good for Donald Trump and for his supporters who want this to happen. So they're going to rejoice over this. But naturally, what Republican bill would be complete without some public safety concerns? There are these critics out there, you see, who contend that the bill could jeopardize public safety by enabling courts to question valid law enforcement decisions. I'm sorry, deporting people that are causing problems in this country is going to cause problems. How? It's going to cause safety issues. How? I'm not following the logic there. Then, of course, there are the civil liberties and due process complaints. Again, more critics. And for this, let's take a look at The Guardian, which talked about this. This is an article posted yesterday titled, Laken Riley Act Passes U.S. House Sending Anti-Immigration Bill to Trump. The notable bipartisan support, they write, for the bill underscores the pressure some Democrats are under to move to the right on immigration after Republicans narrowly won the White House, and both chambers of Congress in November. Narrowly won? It was a frickin' landslide, my friends. But the right has got to cope, I guess. Anyway, they write, but progressives laced into Democrats, accusing the party of caving to Trump's anti-immigration agenda. Someone from the managing director of the Progressives group, individual, wrote, I guess Marie Urbina, or was quoted as saying, reinforcing Republicans' anti-immigration messaging and handing them political wins without a fight is not a plan. Immigration policy is a messaging playground for Republicans who use immigrants as scapegoats to expand their power but never offer real solutions, and Democrats should not play. Then you have Juliana from the United We Dream Action, a youth-led immigrants' rights groups, aka illegal alien rights group, called the Democrat votes shameful beyond words. They said it is because of their political cowardice and their inability to even read the legislation in full and understand its consequences that people in states like Arizona, Nevada, and Michigan will be deported after being arrested for something like petty theft without conviction and without their due process rights. They're going to be targeting illegal aliens. I hate to break it to you. It's about getting people who don't belong here out. Due process. Okay. Anyway, The Guardian goes on to write, immigrant rights and civil rights groups have expressed additional concerns about how the bill could undermine federal authority and empower Trump to carry out his plan for a mass deportation program. Bingo, bingo, bingo. Yeah, that is the point. They're setting the stage right now to defeat all legal challenges here and now. Which is why, by the way, they're only going after the criminal aliens. This is just my personal opinion here. But if logic dictates, if they were to do mass deportation now, right, you get the military involved, you go out there and you're deporting somewhere between 11 and 22 million, closer to 22 million, maybe even more than 22 million, but a lot of people. And, you know, the media is going to be trying to play unfair here. There's going to be, you know, lots of pictures and photos of crying children, blah, blah, blah. And if everything gets caught up in the courts where it takes a long time to fight through all of this, it could cause a political backlash. Because even though the American people are tired of the emotional blackmail of, you know, the quote-unquote separation of families, over time, you could cause a slip in support. So the best thing to do here is simply go after these people that no one is going to have any sympathy for, and at the same time fight all of your legal battles and win the fight before it's even begun. So that's what I think is happening here. Now, the article goes on to quote Sarah Mehta, a senior border policy counsel, whatever the hell that is, with the American Civil Liberties Union, or the ACLU, said, "This is an extreme and reactive bill that will authorize the largest expansion of mandatory detention we have seen in decades, sweeping in children, dreamers, parents of U.S. citizen children, and other longtime members of the communities who even ICE thinks should not be detained. This legislation offers no solution," she goes on to say, "to improve our immigration system, and we thank the senators who stood up for the immigrant communities and due process and voted against this harmful, expensive bill. A bill that will not make us safer." Like hell it won't. If the illegal aliens aren't here, especially the ones that are committing the crimes, by default it would be safer, wouldn't it? Now, anyway, the article continues. Despite these concerns, Trump is expected to swiftly sign the bill once it reaches his desk, making it the first law of his second term. Trump has already used his executive authority to declare a national emergency at the U.S.-Mexico border and call for an end to birthright citizenship, a right enshrined in the 14th Amendment of the Constitution. Which, of course, there are lawsuits already attempting to stop that change from happening. But despite all the attempts to stop Donald Trump, he is simply forging ahead at full steam, as the feckless Democrats are continuing to be steamrolled. For example, let's take a look at a Reuters article discussing this very situation. This is by Sarah Lynch and a few other people, who wrote, "Trump steps up immigration crackdown, warns city-state officials against interference." Oh, what's happening here? Let's find out. together. Reuters writes, President Donald Trump's administration has directed U.S. prosecutors to criminally probe local officials who resist immigration enforcement efforts, intensifying a sweeping crackdown that Trump launched the day he took office. In a memo seen by Reuters, Trump's acting deputy attorney general told Justice Department staff that state and local authorities must cooperate with the immigration crackdown, and federal prosecutors shall, quote, investigate incidents involving any such misconduct for potential prosecution. Meaning, when you have places like Oregon who are actively trying to sabotage training their 11,000 state employees to resist the Trump administration, they're going to get looked at by the Justice Department. Like I said, the Trump team is moving full steam ahead. He's playing 4D chess, and the Democrat Party right now is playing checkers with half the board missing. Case in point, Reuters goes on to write, the Justice Department could also challenge laws that complicate the effort. My, oh my, oh my. Now, the policy was issued as the new Republican administration prepared to step up policing of illegal immigration in cities with significant migrant or illegal alien populations, setting up potential confrontations with local officials in so-called sanctuary cities such as New York and Chicago that limit cooperation with such efforts. The new memo underscored how Trump's Justice Department may try to back his immigration agenda by expanding threats of criminal charges beyond immigrants or those who employ them to city and state officials. It is the latest in series of executive actions Trump has taken to curb illegal immigration, which is his top priority. But wait, there's more, my friends. Speaking of sanctuary cities, Reuters goes on to write more. They say state and local officials who resist or obstruct immigration enforcement could be charged under federal laws against defrauding the U.S. or harboring immigrants who are in the U.S. unlawfully, according to the Justice Department memo. Exactly what Tom Holman was saying earlier about, he's willing to, if you're willing to go to jail, he's willing to put you there. The Trump administration is not playing here. They meant what they said when they called it a crisis. Now, the article goes on to write, prosecutors who opt not to file criminal charges will need to explain their reasoning to superiors. About time, don't you think? When you have corrupt prosecutors and corrupt judges thwarting the will of the American people and thumbing their noses at the law, you've got to do something about it. This is long overdue. The bottom line here, my friends, is this. Time is running out for Democrats who are hell-bent on trying to thwart the will of the American people. The Trump team is steamrolling the hell out of these people. Unlike 2016, which started with a whimper, Trump is wasting no time in forging full steam ahead. And considering that immigration is just one small piece, one tiny fraction of his agenda that he unleashed on just Inauguration Day alone, it seems to me quite unlikely that the Democrat Party is going to be able to not only turn the tide, but even regain their footing anytime soon. They're being run roughshod right now. Donald Trump is smoking them. So all I can say to those watching today is buckle up. This party is only just getting started.